Hi guys, welcome to section 2.4, and today we're going to learn about how to write linear equations. So there's no warm-up problem here because it should go by pretty fast. And so the first one we're going to learn about, and again, this should actually be review of Algebra 1 of writing equations, and you're going to use this skill a lot, which is your main task to do in your project. So very important lesson to go over, but should be pretty quick. So if we're given a graph, which is how probably you would do most of you, if you want to do like a really easy project, how you guys would do this is just use 2 points and write a linear equation based off of that. Specifically, those points, to make your life a lot easier, would have a specific y-intercept, so something on the y-axis, and then you just have to find another point on the line, and you're just going to count that to use your slope. So again, this is called, so we know like the difference between the two different types that we're going to learn today. This is your slope intercept. And remember, it's not hard to remember because it's the two things that this format gives you. It gives you your slope and it gives you your intercept. So again, we're not that creative in naming things, luckily, because it's easy to remember. All right, so again, all you have to do is find the intercept first. So we're going to write our equation. So it's y equals, find your y-intercept, which happens to be 4 here. It's whatever dot is on the y-axis. Okay, and then all you have to do is just find our slope and put it in front of x, and we're done. So you count from one to the other. So we're going to count from the y-intercept to the other point. So that way we're going to go down 2 over 8. So down 2 over 8, and you simplify, of course, to -1 over 4, and that's what your slope is. So this is the equation of your line. That's what I'm saying in your guys' project to be very, try to make yourself a lot easier on your points. So if you guys are drawing on your project, try as much as you can to make your life easier to have an exact y-intercept instead of like having something that crosses like the middle of something. So just try to little tips to make your life not as hard on your project. All right, so then you have this one. So our y-intercept is 1 here. So we're going to have an x and then +1. And then you count from one point to the other. So we're going to go up 6 over 3. Up 6 over 3 is also known as 2. So your slope is 2. So y equals 2x plus 1 would be the equation of your line. Okay, but this is way easier than you're probably going to ever see on a quiz or a test. This is only convenient if you have an exact y-intercept. That doesn't happen most of the time. What happens most of the time is that you guys just have 2 random points on a line. Like for example, if it like went through like this, you just have to find 2 points. So I just have to find this point, and then I'd have to write an equation of a line. Because we can't use this y-intercept, we don't know exactly where that's at, and we can't guess. So most of the time, you guys are going to be using point slope form. So I have to retrain your brain because you guys are obsessed with slope intercept form because your Algebra 1 teachers taught you this. But as we know, the content is a lot easier in that class. You're going to want to use point slope form for pretty much every equation in this class. So please retrain your brain that this is going to be like the most friendly version possible for you guys to give me. Believe me, trust me that this is way easier than your y equals mx plus b. And I'll show you why right here. So point slope form again, what does that mean? It means it gives you a point and it gives you a slope. Okay, so as long as you have a point and you have a slope, that's all you need to write in this equation. So for example, it gives you this equation, y minus 2 equals 4 times x plus 9. So the number in front of x is your slope. And then the point, you have to just use opposite signs. So the point it goes through is -9, 2. And notice in the equation, -9, so that's the x part, goes next to the x. And then 2, you switch it to a -2. So just switch the signs. Okay, and then it's that easy. You don't have to distribute or anything. So a line passes through 6, -7, has a slope of 2. Write the equation for a line. So x, this is your x, this is your y1, x1, and this is your slope of m. So I'll write down the formula, if you want to call it that, just one time, but you guys are going to get into the habit of you're going to go right to the answer. So I can look at this problem, go right to the answer. So it's going to be y. Again, you have a minus sign, which means switch the sign of the y. So it's y plus 7 equals, your slope is 2, x, and then you just do minus 6 for the x1 part. And that's your final answer. You guys do not have to switch it to y equals mx plus b format. If you wanted to, you would just distribute and bring everything over, but it's unnecessary. That's as much work as I need, and that's why I said we need to retrain you guys to think that this is a better version of a line rather than y equals mx plus b. Because I know some of you guys were taught y equals mx plus b, and then you plug in all your m or your x, your y, and your m, and you solve for b and all this stuff that you guys were taught before. This is not a good habit to get into because we're going to start getting into fractions and you guys will make mistakes. So I don't like that format that your Algebra 1 teachers taught you. So use this. Believe me, it's a lot easier. All right, and then it says write a line that passes through -7, -3, and has a slope of 2. Write an equation for the line. So the reason we're able to use point slope form is because it just says write an equation. It doesn't say write an equation in a specific format. If it's notified the format, then we'd have to switch things around. But when it just says write an equation, it doesn't verbalize what specific type. That's why you want to go for the easiest one, which is this format. So here's your x1, y1, and your m. So we just plug it into your equation. So you do y, and then the y number here is -3, but we switch the sign. So y plus 3 equals, slope is 2. You need to have your x, and then again, switch the sign of the x. Done. That's the equation of your line. So try number 3 all by yourself, and then write that line. I'm going to specify it to you guys. Write that line in point slope form. All right, so you should get y minus 8 equals 5 times x plus 3. All right, so now it's the same idea. Now we're just gonna have to write an equation of a line given 2 points. So that's what I'm talking about. Like on Alex, they might give you 2 points, or they might just draw a line, and you're gonna have to just pick 2 points. So I'd pick like this point and this point, 2 exact points on a coordinate, and then you're just gonna have to write the equation of that line. So here, for example, they just gave it to you, or it could be on a graph. So just know it's the same exact question. So again, all you need for point slope form is a point and a slope. Okay, we have 2 points, so we just have to pick one of them to use, but we need a slope, and that's why you guys find your slope equation. So we're just gonna find the slope first, what we did in the last set of notes. So you do your x1, y1, x2, y2. So you subtract the y's. So y minus -2 is 1 plus 2. And then 1 minus -5 is 1 plus 5. So 3/6, which is 1/2. So we have our slope, and you just need to pick a point. Okay, you can pick either one of these points, it doesn't matter. I'll show you guys both versions, but you could just have one of these answers and you'll be fine. Okay, so if I just wanted to use the -5, -2 point, then my equation would be y plus 2 equals 1/2 x plus 5. Or your other answer could be, if you use this point, y minus 1 equals 1/2. The slope does not change. X minus 1, just your points changed. Okay, so either one of those answers would be an equation for this line. All right, number 2 says a line passes through these 2 points. Write an equation for the line. So this is, again, primarily what you would be doing for your project as well. So as long as you can locate 2 points on a line, you would just write the equation doing this. You would just count the slope if it's already graphed for you, and then just pick a point and plug it in and you're done. So don't overthink your project, because this is what's going to happen on your test. So you're just going to use the slope formula to find the slope. So you subtract the y's on top and subtract the x's on the bottom, which becomes a positive. So negative 10 over 6, which is negative 5/3. And then you just have to use this and pick one point. And again, I'll just show you for the notes purposes to show you both equations, but you just have to pick one point. So pick the one that you think is easiest. So this is the first point if you happen to pick that one. And then this is the second point if you wanted to use that one. So you're just changing the numbers for the point because the slopes stay the same. But either one of these equations would work for you. And you guys also need to know how to graph from this. So let's say I gave you this equation, like I gave you this top one or this bottom one, and I said you need to graph the line for this. You should be able to now translate and go backwards and tell me, well, this is the slope, and then my point is 5, because opposite, negative 4. So you guys need to be able to go backwards and as well and be able to look at an equation and tell me what to do. So you would just plot the point, 5, negative 4. You would count negative 5 over 3, plot your 2 points, and connect them, and you're done. So again, very easy equation to use once you guys retrain your brain to understand that this is a way better format than slope-intercept. All right. Okay, and we're going to quickly go over vertical and horizontal lines. We did that with slope the other day, but now we're going to write the equations for these lines, which are really easy to do. So it says write the equations for the horizontal and vertical lines passing through the point 3, negative 6. So I'm just going to draw you guys how we come to this really easy conclusion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's your point, 3, negative 6. So for the vertical line that passes through 3, negative 6, this is your vertical line that passes through it. Okay, so like we found in the last set of notes, this just means x equals 3 for all of these points on this line. So that's your vertical line, x is equal to 3, and that's the equation of your line. That's done. X equals 3 and you're done. As opposed to if you want a horizontal line that passes through that point, this would be your one and only line that does that, and that's just y equals negative 6. Okay, so vertical lines are x equals some sort of number, and then horizontal lines are y equals some sort of number. That's how easy it is, and that's what you guys need to memorize. All right, so for number 2, it says write equations for the horizontal and vertical lines passing through point 5, 3. So the vertical line, the one that goes up and down, is just an x equals equation, and x equals 5 here. And then your horizontal line is a y equals equation, and that is 3 in this specific case. The y equals equations, the horizontal ones, that's going to come up a lot in the next section. So you guys really need to get it through your brain that a horizontal line is a y equals some sort of number equation, and then you'll be fine. All right, last section is our perpendicular and parallel lines. So you just have to know the difference between the slopes of perpendicular and parallel lines. So all you're going to do is solve it into your slope-intercept form first. That way you can easily see what the slope is first. A line that is parallel to a specific equation is m, is the same exact slope as the original. And then a perpendicular slope is a negative reciprocal. So you switch it and you switch the sign. So you flip it over into a fraction and you switch the sign. Negative reciprocal, you switch two things. So it says write the slope parallel and perpendicular to this line. So we first need to find what the slope is, and don't assume it's whatever is in front of x. It's not in the correct form to assume that. So it needs to be in a y equals mx plus b format, or the other form we've been discussing all day today, but it's way easier from a standard form equation, which is this, to get into a y equals mx plus b. So that's what we would go with first. So get into a y equals mx plus b so we know what the slope is. So bring over the x. And then divide everything by 8. And then you just simplify. So y equals -1/4. Oops, I forgot the x. X minus 1. Okay, so now we have the equation, but all we need to know is the slope. The slope here is -1/4. So a slope that is parallel. So if I want to do like a math subscript, which you should have learned in geometry, you just do parallel lines as a subscript. So the parallel slope is the same exact number, -1/4. The slope that is perpendicular, so like an upside down T, you should know that symbol from geometry, is you switch the sign, so it's a negative originally, so it becomes a positive, and then the 1/4 you flip, so it just becomes +4. All right, so now that we know how to find the slopes and we practiced earlier how to write equations of lines, now you guys will be able to write equations that are parallel and perpendicular based off an equation they originally gave you. So number 1 says, consider the line y equals -5/2 x minus 2. We're going to write the equation that is perpendicular and passes through a specific point. So they give you a specific point that it has to pass through. Okay, and again, what is our easiest one? If they didn't specify, again, they just said write the equation. They didn't say point slope, they didn't say slope intercept, but we know our favorite one now is point slope form because all we need is a slope and a point. They gave us the point to go through, and we have the slope here that we have to base everything off of. So you have all the information, you just have to write it now. Okay, so a perpendicular slope to -5/2 x. So this is your original slope. So a perpendicular slope to that is opposite reciprocal. So 2/5. So you have your point. Sorry, you have your slope. This is your point. And now you just write your equation. So y plus 3 equals 2/5, our new slope. And then x plus 9 because of the new point they gave us. Here's what a lot of you guys are going to mistakenly do and think, wow, she's just making it so hard. It is not just replacing this original equation with the new slope. It's not as easy as just doing this, just switching it only the slope. That's not the correct answer at all because they told you to pass through a new point, and this equation does not pass through that new point. So do not just change the slope and then keep the original equation the same. That's not what the question is asking, and don't be lazy like that. All right, so same, we're on part B. It's the same exact question. All we're doing now is just making sure it's a parallel line, and it still passes through that -9, -3, but now we just have a parallel slope instead. So again, you look back at the original equation. So the original equation has a -5/2 slope. So our slope is actually going to stay exactly the same. The only thing that's changing here is that it's going through -9, -3. Okay, but so you just write it in your point slope. So y plus 3 equals new slope, -5/2, and then x plus 9. So basically your two answers for A and B are exactly the same. The only difference is that their slopes change because one's parallel and one's perpendicular. So try number 2 by yourself, and you'll be all finished with this section. All right, your two equations should be here. Again, if you look at them, they both are pretty much the exact same because they both pass through this exact point. And then the only thing that changed was the difference between their slopes based off of something is parallel or perpendicular to this original line. All right, so you guys stop here, do the topics and filter them for section 2.4, and you'll be all done.